Right. There's two interesting things that happened. I would say mostly between 15 and 10 years ago. One is the labor issue that you mentioned is that the margins in this business are small, and so there was a big transition for most of the artists working on the films, essentially being permanent hires, to almost all of them across the industry being hired for a particular show. And when that show wraps, you hope there's another one coming up behind it, so you can just transfer them from one to the other. But that doesn't always happen, and so the labor force started to be much more about moving from company to company with each project, and you always hope you get them back. And so that definitely set the stage for, there's a lot of overhead when someone comes in. If you have to train them up on all these proprietary only tools, and then they leave and they kind of resent the fact that you've filled their heads, with information they can't use anywhere else. And so more reliance on both standardized commercial apps, but also on these open source projects kind of means a lot more people and knowledge portability from project to project and company to company, which is kind of necessary. And the other thing is like these big film projects themselves. It used to be more that a big facility like mine or like ILM would take on essentially an entire movie. And that was pretty standard until about 10 years ago, and it's actually quite rare now. Even the big places, they might, instead of getting all 1,800 shots for a movie, they might get 300 or 400, but each of 5 big places will get 300 or 400. And so part of that is because the production schedule is compressed, and they're doing this work in parallel at different facilities, and so that means a lot more collaboration is necessary.
And so obviously you need to share files between different studios, and that's where the open file formats kind of came into their own, I guess, right?
Yeah. That's a lot of time. Like when I came into the industry and I started as a technical assistant at ILM, and a lot of the stuff that we were doing at that time was developing pipelines around how do we share files between vendors and even between subcontractors for a couple different things at ILM. We would send shots out for certain tasks and ingest them back in for others and stuff like that. And it was a lot of the things that I was working on, and it's how I got introduced to OpenColor.io, which is an open source project under the Academy Software Foundation, because we had to have a way to send what is the color pipeline for this project out to companies, and tell them what we'd done and what we did and how to replicate. So that was a big one. A lot of the other big ones on that, ACES falls under that too, the Academy Color Encoding System, which is the other big open source project I work on. But you have to have a way to say how this image is encoded and have different facilities and different programs know exactly what to do with that. So it's between software packages and it's between different companies too. And so it's both of those things that intertwine together. It's like that interoperability that becomes a big factor in why open source has started to play a huge part.